All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff and Matt. And as promised, we're able to get Matt's insight, feedback, thoughts on the Eagles' convincing NFC Championship win over the Washington Commanders. Before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe, all that kind of fun stuff. And we're going to get right into it. So we did have a podcast on Monday with our guests, the Commander fans, both Johnny and Evan. They held to their commitment because it couldn't have been the greatest feeling to come on and talk about the game that it went for the Commanders, but they gutted it out. And we had a really good conversation. So go back if you missed that or haven't seen it yet, one episode back, and you'll be able to. We had a really good discussion about the game, and they were very complimentary to the Eagles and wished us well as hard as it was for them to both do so. And they also, I'm not sure if Evan gave his prediction, but Johnny was on record saying that he thinks the Eagles are going to beat the Chiefs. So, so that's
tall task.
We'll see. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the Super Bowl game. But for tonight's episode, we're just bringing Matt on here. It'll probably be a pretty shorter episode than normal, just to get his thoughts on the game, talk a little bit more about it. And so with that, Matt, first of all, the reason why you weren't there Monday, happy anniversary to you and your
thanks
for was it 18?
18 years. Yeah,
18 years. So,
2 years to get to 20, which is like a lifetime these days.
Yeah, and what I told Matt was that's about as great an excuse to miss a show as you could possibly come up with. So no problem. We just figured we'd bring you on tonight. So here we go. Your thoughts on the game? 55, 53. Go ahead.
Well, I think, like most fans probably were surprised at the 55 points. I mean, but the things that I keep saying, the Eagles' road to victory is commit to the running game, don't turn the ball over, play good defense, right? And it's like, okay, all three of those things came true, plus no missed extra points or field goals from our kicker there, Mr. Elliott, right? So the Commanders,
we did not talk about that point.
Yeah, Commanders couldn't stop turning the ball over. And I love the way that this Eagles defense just looks to be doing that every week now, like just punching that ball, trying to force a fumble. It's crazy. Jalen Carter has another beast game where he just dominated from start to finish, like totally dominated, just like he did in the Rams game. The one play where he just jumps over the block. I'm like, he's such an athlete. Awesome. Such a dominant force.
Yes.
So like we have, what did we predict? I think
the predictions were this:
33-28 is what I had. I think.
You had 32-28. I had 31-30. Johnny had 35-31 Commanders, and Evan had 38-35 Commanders. So we all had a relatively high scoring game. So we got that part right. What we got wrong was how close we all had it.
Yeah, missed the floor by.
And I have something to talk about after you're done your synopsis.
Yeah,
I have something I covered on Monday's show that I want to just kind of go over again with you as far as how I kind of came up with my score, even though after the Commanders beat the Eagles in the second game, how I basically said I want the Commanders back, and how I felt that they were probably going to, that's why I wanted them back. I wanted them back because I thought we could beat them, and I thought the Eagles would have kind of like a revenge factor. I just felt that the Eagles really had that game in their crawl the rest of the season, losing that game to the Commanders, and that they would play as well as they did this week. But for some reason, not for some reason, the reason I ended up with a closer game is in my head was the way that the Commanders played in the playoffs. That's it. Or else I would have had kind of a much wider score, I believe. But the Commanders played so well in the playoffs that I was like, man. So they definitely impressed me enough to make my prediction closer than it was. Anyway, go ahead. Continue with your thoughts on the game.
Well, I think I correctly identified that Austin Eckler is not quick and twitchy like he used to be. I told you.
We gave you credit on Monday for that.
Hello. He's not the Eckler that he used to be. And I think he started the season stronger than he finished it. And I think he's just out of gas. That guy's not the same player that he used to be. Daniels was Daniels, but
you called that 100%.
Yeah, Daniels is an amazing quarterback, but the Eagles D came to play. So the defensive backs, the defensive line, the linebackers, Oren Burks playing another big game, and causing a fumble. They're just, that was too much. And it's so funny because I'm like, I don't even think Eagles fans, give our team enough credit yet, right? Because I think we're all waiting to just beat the Chiefs. And once we beat the Chiefs, we'll say, yeah, we were clearly the best team after week 5 by far than anybody else, because we could do, and Hurts came alive, right? So the other story to this game is, we all expected Barkley to do well, but he breaks off the first run for 65 yards, and we're like, oh man, this could be an ass whooping. And it ended up being one because of the other things falling into play. But Jalen Hurts played a great game. He had the one play where he took the sack that everyone identified as like, well, we could have done without that. You could have thrown the ball away. But, he's hitting A.J. Brown. He's hitting Devontae Smith right where he needs to, hitting Goddard, hitting everybody. And, clearly didn't have any problem with the mobility to run the ball himself. So, he got he had 3 rushing touchdowns for Hurts, 3 rushing touchdowns for Barkley. And then you tack on AJ had 1, right? AJ Brown had 1 touchdown.
No, they had what's his face, the rookie running back.
Shipley got the other one.
Yeah, no, AJ had a touchdown. You're right. AJ had a touchdown.
Yeah,
and then it was capped off at the end by the guy's name.
Yeah, Will Shipley. Yeah. So dominant defensive line, dominant offensive line. The refs, it would be nitpicky, I would think, to say like, oh, they were just tossing flags all the time. Like the local press was like, oh, like especially the night of the game, the local news media, not necessarily the sports talk guys, but the network sports anchors, on the regular nightly news shows, all of them were like kind of like bitter about the refs. Like, we'll talk about the refs later. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, there wasn't anything that was really truly ticky tack. I didn't think.
Well, let's get into it. I got a couple. I got the one that they missed that I was, that I acknowledged was the holding call on Barkley on that critical 4th and 5 play to AJ Brown down the sideline. He did have his hand underneath the shoulder pad and kind of turned. I think it was either Wagner or Luvu. They showed it on I don't know if you watched. I know you were with a bunch of people and might have not seen the replay, but he had a slight tug and turned him. Should have been a holding call. It's one that is, I don't know. It's one of those holding calls that are missed sometimes. Because it's like it's not really the offensive line that did the hold. It was actually Barkley blocking.
Yeah, Devontae Smith gets called for that stuff all the time.
He tugged him and turned it. I think. Yeah, well, they didn't call Barkley on that play, and it was a critical play. It might be what they're referring to on those stations or whatever. That's the only one in the game that I took issue with. What are your thoughts on the one when Barkley was going down the sideline, had the run, and then he was hit by the cornerback or whatever, and they call a 15-yard flag?
I think it's 50-50. They could throw it, they could keep it in the pocket, and you'd be like, yeah, makes sense. So this ref decided to throw it. So
you're not on that one either. You're not.
His whole body's.
You're not defending on that either way.
His whole body was out of bounds, and his left foot is the one that came down, which means his right foot was further out of bounds. So you can easily call it, and then you can easily say the defender's running and can't really stop, and he, just give him one last little shot. I'm like, I don't know. I think
so. If you were the referee on that play, would you have thrown the flag?
Depends on like the angle I was at. Like if I'm behind them, I probably
gotta
don't.
Give an answer. Gotta give an answer.
If I'm behind them, I don't, and if I'm in front of them, I probably do. Because if I'm in front of that play, I see how far Barkley's out of bounds, and I throw the flag. If I'm behind the play, I'm like, I don't know, look normal.
Right, but having the benefit of hindsight and the highlight or the replay,
what
do you think was a good play?
I'd probably still throw it. I'd probably still throw it. Here's the marker is about 2 feet wide, and he's at least a foot into that marker when his left foot hits.
I'm 100%
silly out of bounds. I think that's obvious.
Like this is why I want. This is Exactly. He was way out of bounds. This was the bone of contention during Monday's. If you haven't watched the episode yourself, we had a pretty good disagreement on the show because they were adamant like that was the most bogus, ridiculous flag, and I'm like, he was way out of bounds. I'm like, he was way out of bounds. I'm like, you guys. What I told them was, listen, you guys, the emotions running high. You just lost, tough loss. I said, watch that play again another week or two and tell me that was not way late out of hit bounds. And because they were like, that was no way. And so they
better believe if that
are
was, you better believe if that was Jaden Daniels that they would have all been screaming.
I asked him that question. I'm like, if that was Jaden, you don't think they would have threw the flag there?
100%.
So they're against that one. I gave them the one on the Barkley hold. That was definitely one that could have been called. So I gave them that one there, but I'm like, I can't give you the Barkley one. That guy was way out of. I was like, Barkley, you explained it perfectly. He's way out of bounds, and you said his left foot was the one that was just about to touch, or was touching when he got hit, not his right foot.
Right, his right.
And because their point was, well, his foot hadn't even touched out of bounds yet.
That's his left foot. His whole body's out of bounds. His whole body is out of bounds, and the left foot comes down about 3/4 of the big black, white strip outside. The other flag. The other thing I thought could have gone either way is they could have tossed 2 flags on Brown and Lattimore to cool them down, because in the replay it clearly looks like Brown was ripping his face.
That too.
But in the real time, you didn't see that, and you see Lattimore's response. And we're both hockey players, so hockey's always the third guy in.
Second guy.
Yeah, so you always get the retaliation versus the guy that starts it. So that was it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said as well. I just want to make sure I know I'm jumping on you for a little bit here, but I want to give you the recap of what our discussion was too, is that that's exactly the third claw that we talked about. And I did say that should have been offsetting penalties. I agreed with him there. I said, but it's usually the guy that retaliates that always gets the call. So, but that should have been offsetting. Brown definitely was tussling with him and all that, and almost took his helmet off.
Yeah.
So,
and then there's the fun like 6 attempt try at the tush push, which was becoming comical. And I'm like, at that point, like, I would have just kept pressing just like the Eagles did. Like, we're eventually going to hike this, but we have fun watching you guys just jump all over the line. And then Luvu coming over the top. I have no problem with that. I mean, the Hockey Lee, when he was like, oh, we're just going to award the touchdown, I'm like, I could watch this all day. Like, I'm like, watch the 6 seconds ticks off the clock every time you blow the whistle. Yeah. I'm like, I don't care. Like, that ball's getting almost to be a score because you can only cut half the distance to the goal so many times, but which I guess is what the ref was saying. But that was pretty funny. And if you're on defense, I'd probably do the same thing. Like, there's only one chance to stop this, and it's to try to hit him perfectly, like a Palomalu over the top type play. So, the problem was Luvu was early in.
And I liked it. The funny part was Jalen's reaction, like on the second or third time he jumped over. He was just backing up, watching him fall on his face. Yeah. It's just I totally saw it coming each time,
So neat stuff. Barkley almost had 4 touchdowns because I think that's the drive that they actually did the 6 tush pushes, was Barkley getting tackled on the left side there.
Yep.
After he broke another 15 to 20-yard run. So Barkley is a beast, and he's 100% focused.
Just amazing.
And I think this whole team is way more focused than they were 2 years ago when they played the Chiefs the first time. So I have a good feeling inside, just like I did in 2018. When Foles got on a roll and we were just like, we're going to play good football and you're going to have to be perfect to beat us. That's how I feel about us versus the Chiefs. And the X factor being Mahomes. But Mahomes, better thrower of the ball than Daniels, smarter for sure with all that playoff experience. But I don't feel like Mahomes gets away from us this game like he was able to last time, where he's just barely running fast enough with his injured ankle and whatever he had last time against our older defensive line. I think our young defensive line, no one's
much faster
to get him on the ground.
Exactly. That is true. We got much faster defense. Now, the thing about Mahomes is he's not nearly as quick and as fast as Daniels, certainly, but he's very good at finding the little nooks and crannies within the pocket to just get by and things like that. But the way like you said, you hit it on the head, with the way our speed is on defense, I don't think we have to worry about him much in scrambling, certainly for like a 3rd and 12 first down like we did with Daniels. Maybe a 3rd and 8, he could still figure out a way to scramble and get a first. He could probably still do that, but it's going to be tough because our defense is a lot quicker. The line's quicker. The linebackers are faster. Our, guys like who's up near the line because he's the slot corners right there too. Not going to be much room out there for those plays.
No, it'll be
what's going to kill the Eagles, in my opinion, which killed them in this game because that's why Zach Ertz went off.
Yeah,
I pointed out in my preview. You might remember I said we're most vulnerable in this defense over the middle.
Yeah,
that 10 to 15-yard middle area, and that's exactly where the Commanders were most successful. That's why Ertz went off for 100-something yards. I mean, Ertz had a great game. I said this jokingly. I'm like, it's ironic that the best player on the field or the one who had the best game, maybe not the best player, but the one who had the best game for the Commanders was a former Philadelphia Eagle.
Yeah. I would let if I was Vic Fangio and I was planning against this defense, especially after the last game against the Commanders, I would let the corners play almost man-to-man the entire game and cheat Blankenship or C.J. Gardner-Johnson into that middle area of the field and almost double that middle area, whether it's Kelsey or, I don't know. We have more speed than almost every one of their receivers. Worthy's their fastest guy, but what do they have?
We have nobody fast than that guy. That guy's fast, but
yeah,
we have guys to keep up with at least. Yeah,
Slay matches up well with Hopkins at this point. They're both all pros, all career all pros, but I'm not too worried about their receivers. I'm really not. It's just that middle area of the field. So I would plan on somebody, and probably Blankenship, since he's the slower of the safeties, I would put him kind of with a little bit of that midfielder mentality and let these cornerbacks run deep with the receivers, because our D-line will put pressure on Mahomes. He's going to have to move. And when he's moving, I mean, he can chuck it, but those deep balls don't quite connect like they used to when they had Tyreek Hill. So that's how I would play this game. The one scary stat that I saw going into this game is Vic Fangio is 0-8 against Andy Reid.
Oh, I did not see that. Is he really?
He's 0-8, whether he was the coach of the Broncos or the Dolphins, or working with the Dolphins, head coach of the Broncos, DC with the Dolphins. He's 0-8 against Mahomes and the Chiefs and Andy Reid.
So interesting stat.
So people say, well, he's due then. And I'm like, well, maybe, but I'm like 0-8. I would rather it be like 1-8.
Yeah. Plus Andy Reid got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In between this game.
Yep. So that
fair for his defense. So probably a lot of those he had 1 week. Yeah.
That'll be very interesting.
That's interesting.
The Chiefs don't turn the ball over either. So again, we're going to have to commit to the run. Don't turn the ball over. Nice to see Hurts come alive with the passing game last week, just to show that everybody he can still do it, because we're going to have to make a play or two there as well. Yep. Have to. And the Eagles, with that 55 score on the Commanders, they should be coming in. Like, it's nice to see like a get-right game be the game right before the Super Bowl, where everything, like we've been saying, like, well, we haven't seen this team clicking all cylinders yet. That game against the Commanders, everything was clicking. So,
yeah, they peaked. I don't say they peaked, but that was their best game of the season, and so they're peaking at the right time is what I meant to say.
They should be rolling into this game with a lot of confidence. Because there's
like, just really quick, because we got, you're getting into the Super Bowl preview a little bit, but as I think that you can't overlook how good that Kansas City defense is.
No, they're good, and this
defense of Kansas City is basically what's carried them.
Yeah, and largely, if Chris Jones is healthy on the D line, then that line starts everything, right? Almost exactly like the Eagles. Spags, awesome coach against Fangio, awesome coach. So it's going to be
going to send a blitz at Hurts. They're definitely going to blitz him.
Yeah,
no question.
And Hurts has got to be prepared for that. But just hit him with these middle screens. Hit him with Calcaterra, Goddard, Barkley out of the backfield. Just get ready to throw those nice little lobs right over the head of the incoming rush and just let Barkley go. If half the team's behind him, Barkley's scoring. So the other thing I want to say, I called last week.
I was yelling screens. You remember during the game, I texted you, perfect, let's do some screens. That's when the game was still close. I'm like, they're blitzing screen pass. Let's get some screens. Because they were just sending Luvu. Remember those couple of plays where they just totally blitz right through the line and stop Barkley in a half a second?
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to start calling some screens.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. And
so,
trust that Barkley, if you're so good at 4th and 1 with the tush push, then trust Barkley will get that screen right up to that line. So I would do that a little bit more, be prepared to do it against Spagnuolo and the Chiefs. But the other thing that I did call correctly, even though the score was way out of hand, I said last week that if I may have called CJ Gardner Johnson, so I got the player wrong. But I was like, I just picture Daniels having the ball for the late drive, only this time it's intercepted. And what happens, Q gets that incredible interception with great coverage on Terry McLaurin, who got his 1 touchdown. But other than that, we handled him. You know, when this defense is on and helping them handle these guys. So Q gets a fantastic pick. So he's going to be running into this game with all sorts of confidence too. So is Cooper DeJean. I mean, the whole defense is playing probably
Cooper down the sideline, that one-on-one swat away.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
This team is quick, fast, they tackle, and they're playing with confidence. So they're by far the best defense in the league. Chiefs are good. Eagles defense is better.
Is better. Yeah, it is. So it should be a great Super Bowl. I've wanted to get this rematch in because we owe them bastards from 2 years ago when they freaking got the benefit of that call late. And, you know, the early turnover by Hurts, when it happened, I'm like, oh, man, I just had a feeling it was going to probably be the difference. And then it ended up being the difference in terms of the score. So, again, can't turn the ball over in that game. I don't want to just finish up wrapping up the championship game. So let's go to thumbs up. And honestly, I didn't write anything down for thumbs up and thumbs down for the first time all season because I don't have anyone thumbs down. None. And for thumbs up, it's a quick summaries for me. I don't think there's anyone that's not on the thumbs up list in this game. We just talked about it being like the best played all season. I can't. Maybe you can think of a thumbs down. I don't have any thumbs down for this game. I have everyone. There might be some guys that I want to just give an extra shout out to. Like, for example, Landon Dickinson, who had to come in to the game and play center, and then he gets hurt, badly hurt, by the end of the first quarter or something. He was like, could barely walk.
Yeah, and he has to tough
it out. Out there like warrioring it out in the field.
Yeah.
And then finally Juergens is like, and give Juergens, he was not healthy enough to play. The Eagles were smart enough to make him just like an emergency active starter. They could have like just kept him inactive. But they kept him active because I don't know what they would have done if they had not. Who's going to play center, you know? But Juergens is like, they showed him on the sideline, like, hey, guys, listen, I know I'm hurt, but let me go in for Landon. The guy could barely walk. Yeah. And he comes into the game, and you could see, I don't know if you watched it, but when he came into the game, I was watching him. He was getting blown back almost on every play. But he was just trying to do everything he could to just do his job and just at least – he was being pushed. I don't know if you saw it, but at least the first few plays I was watching it because it was very noticeable. He was just being pushed immediately backwards by the nose guard or whatever on Washington. So you could tell he was not nearly 100%, but just went in there to gut it out. And so major shout-outs to Juergens and Landon, who, tried to gut it out as much as he could on a bad leg. What's good is they have 2 weeks now to get him hopefully healed up enough to play. Those two guys I definitely wanted to shout out for their extra effort. And then everyone we've mentioned. I mean, Brown had a great game when they gave it to, Devontae. He was great. Goddard had his – I love the Goddard call. Like, this is the first game where you saw Kellen Moore have a little mixed bag of some different plays. Like, I love the little end around with Goddard. How many people do that with tight ends, by the way?
Yeah.
But that timing was perfect. I looked at that play when it first happened, like, man, did he even get the snap did he even get the handoff to Goddard? It was perfectly timed.
Yeah.
And they got a good gain on that. So that was something that they pulled out of the bag there. I like he called the great game. Other than me screaming for screen passes early, I thought this was one of the best Kellen Moore called games I've seen all year, and I've been critical of him. I thought he called a great game. We talked about defensively, all the guys stepping up and playing well. Burks has been awesome in relief of Kobe Dean. I mean, the guy's been great. Causing turnovers on making tackles for losses. We're not even like skipping a beat without Kobe back there. The guy's playing so well. No, Bond keeps doing his thing every single game. Bond is an impact, doing something. Recovered the fumble, forced the fumble on the other play.
Yep.
He's just ridiculous how good that guy is.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And Nolan Smith, I mean, all of them. I think Hurts gets my biggest thumbs up, and everyone kind of just played their max. But the one we were wanting to see show up was Hurts, and Hurts came alive. So I was like, all right, that's the final thumbs up that I needed to see. And now it's all thumbs up going into next week or 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, thumbs up to the crowd that was into the game, big time. We definitely heard the crowd. I mean, that was awesome. Barkley just keeps being just Barkley. Just can't stop the guy. I don't see how the Chiefs can even stop him. I know they got a better defense, but what's interesting is the game last week, the Bills had pretty good success running against the Chiefs defense. I think they're back or second half of that game, they ran for over 100 yards. So, man, if they can't, I mean, I know the Bills have got a good offense, but that's not Barkley back there. So that gives me a little bit of
they should have ran
going into the Super Bowl.
They should have run Cook a lot more than they did. I think he had 15 touches overall. I'm like, he's your whole offense, and everyone is just talking Josh Allen, Josh Allen, Josh Allen. I'm like, oh my God, hand the ball off and run Cook, and you're right back in the game. And they're just like, nope, we're going to try to pass again. Try to pass. I do have one thumbs down. That's for the Philadelphia Eagles fans. There was one fan that fell off like 18 feet to death. I'm like, you got to be smarter than that.
Oh, I know, the one that killed, the one that died. He ended up dying.
Tragic story, but he passed away, I think, today or yesterday. And it's like, just be smarter than that, guys. Like 18 years old. Horrible. So thumbs down. Be smarter. Philly, the world's watching. Be smart. If you win the Super Bowl, cut out the shit. No more deaths. That's pretty silly.
Yeah, that was tragic story. You just,
not to be a downer, but I'm like
18 years old, you do stupid things. No, I know. I'm glad you brought it up. Condolences to his family and friends or whatever. But like Matt said, you got to be smart. Climbing up poles and everything. Kid's got his whole future ahead of him. 18, you do stupid things, but eventually you got a little smart bird on your shoulder saying, "Don't do it. Not worth climbing up a grease pole."
No, concrete is hard.
Yeah. So, agree with you. I guess if there is a thumbs down, that would definitely be it.
That's it.
Otherwise, just a great performance. Yeah, exactly. If the Eagles do win a Super Bowl, let's not burn the city to the ground. All right, guys. Celebrate, have fun, of course, but first of all, we got plenty of time to talk about the Super Bowl and winning it. We got to win it first. But that was a tragic story. So I don't have any thumbs down other than that. Did you have anyone you wanted to kind of give an extra shout out to or whatever?
No, it was rock solid. I mean,
as far as the game,
it seemed like every time, the Eagles score, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go take a bathroom break, maybe get myself another beer. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Eagles got the ball back. Okay, awesome. What happened? Oh, Eckler fumbled. Oh, special teams fumble. Oh, it was like, okay, you can give us the ball 8 more times than we're expected to get it. That's fine. We scored on every single one of those turnovers too. So
and they were all forced turnovers. They're like that's the thing about those turnovers. It wasn't like it was he was running with it and just dropped. The ball came out or one of these kind of weird plays. It was like forced. They were all punched out of the commander player.
Yep.
Vaughn one. The Eckler one was punched out by Burks. The special teams one, Shipley came in and knocked that ball out. And then the interception by Mitchell, which was just a great play on one of the best wide receivers in the league.
Yeah.
Now that was kind of garbage time, but still, I mean, it was a great play. The turnovers killed the Commanders, no question. It would have been a closer game if they had not done that. But the Eagles forced those turnovers.
Yeah.
They made those plays happen.
They laid a whooping on them. Yep.
They did. So, all right, we'll wrap it up. But I wanted to, I gave Johnny and Evan, our friends, guests of the program, their props. Because I said, listen, I said the pressure was on the Eagles in this game. I said, I know it still sucks to lose. You're one game away from the Super Bowl, but as much as it hurt you guys, it would have hurt the Eagles way worse because they're expected to be playing in that game. Washington was not. You guys had house money, and I don't mean to dismiss how tough it is to deal with it. My point is that you weren't supposed to be there. You got there, earned being there, absolutely. And it was just, you ran up finally against a team that is just one of the best in the NFL. That's really what you get down to. And now we'll see if we'll be able to prove in a couple weeks if we are truly the best team in the NFL as we try to knock off a team that's trying to become the first team in history to win 3 straight. So, and 2 of them would be against the Eagles if they'd beat us. So that's why the Eagles, if they would really be part of that history, because they would be 2 out of the 3 losses would be the Eagles. 2 out of the 3 wins of theirs would be against the Eagles, even though that first one was That's why we want him. That's why we want him again, man. We owe that team. We owe that freaking team.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think it's an achievable stat, but I think I read a stat today that said if Barkley gets 364 yards, either 264 or 364, that he would actually have the first 3,000 yards season ever by a running back. And I'm like, well, I think 364 yards is a little bit hard to come by in a championship game.
Unreal.
So, but 264, you could see him maybe doing. Like, he breaks one early and he comes out swinging like the Commanders. I'm like, oh, imagine if he was in for that Shipley run. That would have been another touchdown and another 80 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Shipley just ran out of gas on that one.
I know he did run out of gas.
So good. And I'm like, oh, he's gone. And I'm like, oh no, he's not.
Well, first of all, I know. He did have a great burst through the line. I mean, once he got about 40 yards down the field, you see him he's like, gasping for air.
I hit the meter. I'm out of gas.
Yeah, well, you think about it. He's played the whole season, has had maybe 10 carries the whole year.
Yeah.
And he just came off being injured. Like, didn't he miss like the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season? So he hasn't even been, he's probably barely in game shape.
Yes.
Yeah, he was destined for the end zone, and it just was like, okay, I'm not gonna make it. I'm just gonna
he's like 30
ball
out.
Make sure.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Thing I wanted to say. Yeah. So anyway, back to the Commanders. Had a great season.
Yep.
They got a lot of salary cap maneuvering to do. A lot of people that they can bring in. That team's going to be a thorn in the Eagles' side for a while now. That quarterback is definitely the goods. We'll see. One thing that's still going to be questioned. I'm not trying to jinx him or anything, but you saw what happened to Stroud between last year and this year. He had a great rookie season, took a step back this year because defensive DCs get tape on these guys, and there's always that sophomore slump. I'm not saying he's going to have it. I think the guy's a spectacular quarterback, but we'll see. I mean, he's going to have a tough schedule. The whole NFC East division's got one of the toughest schedules in the league next year.
Yep.
Even the Giants are they have the second or even first, I think, hardest schedule. It's ridiculous. So they're really getting screwed. But Daniel's goods. I think the coaching staff's pretty good over there. They got some pieces there in defense. They definitely have pieces on offense. That's a good team. Let's just see if they can, have another really, really good season next year. I wouldn't bet against it, but we'll see.
I think they can move some money off of that defensive line still and throw it towards another offensive weapon. And whether it's, like I said, I think Eckler's done. I think it's wishful thinking to think you're going to get anything more than what you just got out of Eckler this season. Don't expect him to equal it. It'll be lesser next season. But if they can get some sort of wide receiver that can provide great consistency across from McLaurin, then that's a dangerous team. And let the younger tight end, he's got to eventually step in for Ertz because Ertz is.
By the way, thanks for bringing it up. We didn't talk about this much with Johnny and Evan. I probably should have. Did you see that fake coming from a mile away? I was screaming at the TV, call timeout. You could tell how long they were taking for that punt.
Yeah, I didn't see.
And they had these guys in the line. You might remember there was 3 guys doing it.
Yeah, I was getting.
Oh man, it was.
I came back and
replay. If you ever watched,
that's a hell of a play.
Yeah, but it was. If you go back in, if you ever watch the replay of that game, watch how long Washington takes before they snap the ball, and all this little gesturing that their guys are doing on the line. I'm like, call timeout. That's going to be a fake. I'm like yelling. And they didn't call timeout. Perfectly executed fake. Credit to Washington, but I'm like, where are you guys? Call timeout. It was so obvious to be a fake punt.
Yeah. Well, maybe you do have a thumbs down then for Eagles special teams coach.
Yeah, maybe that. You know what? Thanks. You just gave my only thumbs down. That was it.
Yeah, I didn't see the setup for the play. I just saw the pass.
Man,
I was like, that's a well executed.
Oh yeah, it was
for 40 yards. I mean, that punter had to throw that sucker.
Yeah, I did a great job. Yeah, it was well executed, but I'm saying I knew it was going to be a punt or fake, and I saw it from my living room. It's like, come on, Eagles, what are you guys doing? Pay attention out there. I mean, it was so clear they're going to fake punt it there. Anyway, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't mention that at all on Monday's recap. All right. I guess we'll get the final thoughts. I said we keep the show short. We will. Yeah. We will be back. I mean, we might do a couple episodes to talk about the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl. So maybe we'll probably just keep on on the same schedule. Although I'm going to be traveling on Monday, so we probably will do. Yeah, we'll probably do like a maybe Wednesday again next week, and then maybe a Friday or Saturday before the Super Bowl show. Try to get 2 more in. Definitely 1 more. Probably try to get 2 more since the Super Bowl. But it won't be now that I think about it. Unless Matt wanted to come out and do his own. You're free to always do your own pod, Matt, if you want. But I'm going to be out of pocket for
There's enough to talk about, Sometimes you can double up the shows and it's like, well, we already kind of talked about this stuff, but I think we should see. We'll see what the news is tracking. If something big hits, then maybe a second show is warranted. But
I mean, you do. So certainly we'll be back next week, and appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And we're heading to the Super Bowl, folks. And who would have thought? Who would have thought? I mean, we definitely knew we had a good team, but we are there. And not only are we there, we got a rematch with a team that just got away with one from us 2 years ago.
Yeah, and we seem to do well in those revenge games like we just did. So here's the revenge.
Yeah, well, the Eagles can be ready for it. The Eagles are out. And the other thing is, I want to mention this. Glad I didn't forget. BG.
May play.
BG. Mr. Super Bowl turnover himself has an outside chance of playing in this game.
I wouldn't force it. But if he sneaks on the field by the end of the game to give him a snap, especially for winning, then fantastic. But we've got things covered without him. Like, I wouldn't push it.
True. And it all depends on if he's got his legs and that type of thing. There's no need. But, at the same time, this will probably be his last game ever.
Yeah.
So if they can get him in there and, to give a guy a blow, for here or there, obviously you don't have to worry about any of him being fooled on any play or anything. He's got there's nothing he hasn't seen in the NFL. So just to get an extra little depth in there. I mean, they did play Huff a little bit finally in this one. He was out there when the game was kind of over. I'm like, my God, is there that guy?
He's the one
given the perfect number to wear. 0.
Zero impact.
I've never seen a free as good. Yeah, exactly. 0 impact, 0 production, just a big 0. And unfortunately, he's got a lot of zeros at the contract that we gave him because he is the biggest bust free agent I think the Eagles have ever picked up.
Especially with everyone else producing based on what the middle line push is getting them. How can Huff be silent? I'm like, where are you? Like, everybody else that's come in to play defensive end, from J.X. Hunt to Nolan Smith to Josh Sweat, they've all had consistent sack opportunities and pressure. Yeah. But I'm like, Huff, you don't even see a step at the end of the game.
Even Huff, like you said, J.X. Hunt, he's a guy who's a project coming into this year. He's like a guy that they'd expect to develop and have an impact in like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and he's
already, he's shown more than Huff this year.
Yeah, Huff is in the wrong. It's not a good fit. That's all.
No, definitely not. All right. Thanks again for watching. And we will be back next week to talk about the Super Bowl. Until then, fly, Eagles, fly. And we'll catch y'all there. Have a good one.
Enjoy the football free week.